Hey, what's up, everyone? I want to welcome you to another episode of Here's What I Think with your host, Charles Stebansi, where we discuss everything from current events, politics, and how it all shapes business and life. Let's get into this topic here. This is a very interesting one, right? The presidential election is drawing ever close every single day, right? It's getting closer and closer. I actually just cast my ballot because I'm voting from afar, obviously. I'm very, very excited. I've already sent in my vote. So I encourage those of you who haven't voted or registered to vote, ensure that you guys go do that and make sure you vote. Come election day and let your voice be heard. Whoever you feel is the best candidate that represents your views, go vote for that person. Anyway, speaking about voting, what are some of the issues that people are going to be voting on? They're going to be voting on foreign policy. They're going to be voting on immigration. They're going to be voting on healthcare. But one of the things that people are going to be voting on is economics, which is taxes and essentially their bottom line. Right? People usually vote for their bottom line and what best suits them. And if you listen to various schools of thought, and I listen to all of it. I listen to guys on the left. I listen to guys on the right. I listen to guys in the middle because I want to have a robust point of view on things. Various people are saying why you should vote for either candidate. Some people are saying, hey, look, you need to vote for Trump. Things are better under Trump. He has a better economic plan moving forward. Some people are saying, no, you need to vote for Kamala. She has a better plan. She's going to lead us in the better direction. So what happened? This afternoon, Marco sent me a clip. And it was from Valuetainment, who I watch. I've been watching Patrick Bet-David for years, right? I initially started watching him when he was doing business videos, and then he evolved into politics. No. He evolved into interviews. He was doing interviews. That was doing well for a time. He did mafia interviews. Those did fantastically well for him. And then he just ultimately kind of morphed into doing politics, where he has a political show. That's what he talks. I guess that's his interest, right? And he does it at a high level. He has one of the biggest platforms out there in the United States discussing politics. He's had some heavy hitters on his show. So he sent me this clip from Patrick Bet-David, which was basically outlining Kamala Harris's economic plan and her plan in terms of taxation and all of that. Why he wasn't telling you who to vote for, which is interesting, which I like. He was just saying, are you sure this is what you want, right? So what we want to do is want to play a little bit of some of the key highlights. You guys should go listen to it. He did a full show, which we want to play some of the key snippets from what Patrick Bet-David had to say about Kamala Harris's tax plan, and then we're going to come back and continue on. Take a listen to what he had to say here.
Things. Number one, yourself. If you own stocks, if you have money in the stock market, as of July 1st, 2024, the market cap of U.S. stock market was $55.2 trillion. In the last 30 years, the return has been roughly the S&P 500, 10.7%. 158 million Americans own stock. That's 61% of adults. The top 1% owns 54% of the stock. The top 10% owns 89%. The bottom 90% owns only 11%, but the bottom 50% only owns 0.6%. So they don't have a lot of money. Four numbers. We're just going to look at 2022. Red is unrealized. That means taxes haven't been paid on that. You bought something for $100,000, a stock. Now it's worth $1 million. The $900,000 that you haven't paid taxes on, that's unrealized gains. That's how much it's not been taxed. And even if we break it down a little bit more, this may give you a little bit more context. From 89 till 2022, $19.5 trillion of capital gains is realized and has been paid taxes of $3.4 trillion. The 48.2 is unrealized. The government wants to tax that. That's what Kamala Harris wants to do. They want to tax the unrealized gains. You know what the total number is? $4.1 trillion over the next 10 years. You know what the question I have for you is? That $4.1 trillion over the next 10 years. Who do you trust to do more with that money? The U.S. government or free market, people that are job creators, entrepreneurs? Who do you think will do more with that? The U.S. government, when they decide, let's send $200 billion, $100 billion to Zelensky, Ukraine. You may disagree. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. You can't be like, I don't like that. They take certain money and they waste it. We're going to put all these battery plants, we're going to invest $500 million. They got 7-8 locations in the span of how many years? They waste all the money. But it's like $500 million. Oh, you know what we're going to do? We're going to be able to take money back because it's not quantitative tightening is what we're going to do. So we're going to buy back $200 billion every month. How are you going to do? We can just do that. Who cares? We can just do that. So if you can manipulate in those areas, why are you trying to take $4.1 trillion away from our hands to the government? Do you really think that's good for you and your family? You really believe that? You think that's good for the economy? You think that's good for your 401k? You think that's good for your retirement plan, pension plan? You think that that's what they're trying to do?
So you heard some of the points that he made. Obviously, in this show, he goes further in depth. He gives more detail. again, that's why you guys should check it out if you're interested in hunting down that information. So we have that. But I also want to play from the other aspect of this, what another popular voice in politics, his name is David Pacman from the David Pacman Show. And essentially what he was reacting to was one of the core tenets of Trump's economic plan, which is tariffs, right? And he was reacting essentially to an interview where an interviewer was asking Donald Trump to essentially explain how the tariffs are going to work. And David Pacman was essentially saying how Trump's tariffs could actually be very detrimental to U.S. citizens. So what we want to do is want to play some of the key highlights of what he had to say, and then we're going to come back and continue on. Take a listen to David Pacman here.
Economically, listen to this.
Those tariffs, won't they pass those along? If they passed a tax on golf memberships, you would probably at your resorts pass that along to your members, right? You wouldn't have just absorbed it.
It sort of depends on the market, not necessarily. You look like you might be a golfer, actually, but not really necessarily.
Not a good one, sir.
Not a good one. There aren't too many good ones around, I'll tell you. But no, not really. I think that you're going to find, and I think when we do it, and different countries also will be tariffed differently. You know, there are some that make tremendous margins on us. We have countries, I won't go into it now, but we have countries that are...
Just as a little interjection, if you're confused, it's because this doesn't make any sense.
Charging us 200% and 250 and 300%, and we charge them nothing. And it's insane, and you just can't do it. And it's really not sustainable. It's not sustainable. There are certain countries that I'd rather not mention them now because I'll be mentioning them if and when we win. But they're going to have to pay up. And it's not going to have inflationary. If anything, it's going to go the opposite. We're going to be paying off debt because we have too much debt.
Okay. He still has no idea how tariffs work. And he actually has the, it's not even audacity. It's more like the ignorance to suggest that actually the tariffs that he's going to place on people are going to bring down prices of goods in the United States. Every single economic analysis of Trump's tariff plan says it's just going to generate inflation in the United States. Trump criticizing Biden inflation, even though it's come down dramatically and has been in a sustained way lower than that of other Western developed nations. His plan actually would generate more inflation. Now, there's a couple of reasons that you might use tariffs as a tool if they're well calibrated and well thought out. One of them is by putting tariffs, for example, on a Chinese good, you would encourage American companies that need that good to either go and get it from a different country to avoid the tariffs, therefore hurting China economically, which might be your goal, or you would encourage the American company to get it domestically, get that good domestically, which is a fine idea. The problem with that idea, there's two or three different problems. Number one, from a practical perspective, it can take years, if not decades, to realign and restructure supply chains such that some of the things we've been getting from China for 40 years, we can now manufacture in the United States. So in the short and even medium term, you're just costing money to American companies, which they pass on to the consumers. The second sort of problem with the idea of doing this, in addition to it takes time to realign those supply chains, is that it will still cost more even when manufactured in the United States. Now, you could say, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with things costing more to manufacture domestically because I think it's good for the country. Totally legitimate position to take. The problem is that, and this is not a Republican or Democratic thing, for decades, our elected officials have decided implicitly that we would rather the cheap stuff from China. We, of course, we might not necessarily be best suited, but we could make the things we get from China in the United States. But everything would cost way more. And Americans would say, wait a second, I don't have more to pay for this stuff. I don't want to pay more for some of this Chinese stuff. So at the consumer level, Americans, even though we say, oh, what about bringing the jobs home? Sounds good. We don't actually want to pay the prices that would require. So
you heard what he had to say. Now, what I want to do is quickly read what both of these candidates' tax plans are for United States. Let me read what Donald Trump's tax plans are. This is from usnews.com. It says, to lower the corporate income tax rate from 21 to 20% and lower the corporate income tax rate to 15% for companies that make their products domestically. To make tips and overtime exempts for income taxes. To end taxes on Social Security benefits, to impose a 10 to 20% tariff on most imported goods and a 60% tariff on goods imported from China, right? So you have that. Now I want to read what Kamala's tax plans are. To raise the corporate income tax rate from 21 to 28%, to raise the capital gain tax from 20 to 28% for people who make more than $1 million or more annually, to make tips exempt from income tax, to increase the child tax credit from $3,600 for children aged 2 to 5 to $3,000 for children 6 to 17, and to $6,000 for a child's first year, to provide a $25,000 down payment assistance to qualifying first-time home buyers, to increase the tax to increase the $5,000 tax deduction for small businesses startup costs to $50,000, to increase the Medicare tax bill tax from 3.8 to 5% for people making more than $400,000. So that's where they stand. Those are their actual tax plans. What do I think about this? It's something that I'm still learning about, obviously, because again, we're just getting into this here for the first time in terms of discussing politics and all of that. But I'm in an interesting position. Why? Because I'm self-employed. We're self-employed here, right? So them raising the corporate tax rate could hurt us in a sense, because you're going from 20, they want to propose from 20, she wants to go from 21 to 28%. So they're going to be taxing us a little bit more there. So that could affect people like me. Now, if you're not a business owner, I'm not really sure how that's going to affect you. Now you can say, well, some businesses may cut salaries because they increase it. I don't know, right? I don't know how all of that's going to work because maybe some businesses are not. Also, what if you sign somebody in a contract, you give them a 5-year contract, I'm paying you $100,000 a year, then they knew you're going to change the contract. I don't know how all of that works. But she did mention something which I do like about her tax plan, which is to increase the $5,000 deduction for small business startups to $50,000. That encourages entrepreneurs. Now, if you listen to Tom Brady, Patrick, but David, I said Tom Brady because we did a Tom Brady topic on our sports channel, Dreamers Pro. But if you listen to that in terms of starting a business, that's very encouraging, right? A $50,000 deduction, that will encourage people to maybe become more industrious in terms of starting businesses. In terms of these tax hikes that she's looking for, really, she's going to be raising it on people earning a lot of money, people earning over $400,000, $1 million. So if you don't earn that much, I don't really see how it's going to affect you. But obviously, Patrick Bet-David gave his explanation why he feel that it could. In terms of the tariffs, I still don't understand how they're not going to be detrimental and how it's not going to raise inflation. I still don't get that because, David Pacman did bring up a good point, which was this. If you increase the tariffs, okay, you're doing it also to encourage people in the United States to produce domestically. And Donald Trump has put in some provisions for that. But the problem is when you do something like that, number one, as you're encouraging people to create more products domestically, those tariffs still exist. So the prices are going to go up regardless while those things are still in place. So I'm trying to figure out, how is that not going to hurt the consumers? The everyday person. This is what I'm trying to understand. From a day-to-day level, how is that not going to affect you? It will affect you. It absolutely will, because you're just going to pass the call. You would do it. If they increase the tariff on you, you would do it as well. So to me, again, as I said in other shows, I'm going to say it again. I don't think either of these candidates are perfect. But in terms of their economic plans, in terms of taxes and all of that, it's a tough one. I can understand what she's trying to do by raising taxes on unrealized capital gains and all of that. But at the end of the day, unless you have $5 million in the bank, that's not something you're worrying about anyway. But look, these are just my thoughts here. Really, it's up for you guys to come to your own conclusions. I'm not here to tell you what to think. So what do you think about all of this? What are your thoughts? What do you land on these issues? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We'll catch you on the next show.